FM News Talk 97.1. On-demand audio.
The State House was packed for the veto session, and many were waiting for this.
Senate substitute for House Bill 253.
That's the number of the tax cut bill, one that would have cut tax rates for Missouri corporations and small businesses and a small personal income tax cut. A bill Republicans believe would keep Kansas City, Missouri competitive with the state of Kansas, who's already cut its tax rates.
There was 9,500 net new growth in jobs over that period. Unfortunately, all 9,500 of those jobs were on the Kansas side of the state line.
The bill's sponsor, T.J. Berry of Clay County, said Missouri was headed in the wrong direction and needs to grow. A woman in the gallery said that tax cuts do grow an economy, pointing to what happens during the no sales tax sales holiday.
We're just going to continue to hemorrhage jobs and tax revenue out of the state of Missouri, which progressives don't seem to understand is actually going to affect us more than the 1% tax cut we would have received had Missouri families actually been served in Jefferson City. There was a lot of questioning, especially from yours truly, as to what happened in Jeff City yesterday. Joining us right now is Missouri Speaker of the House, Tim Jones. Mr. Speaker, what happened with the Republican Party yesterday? Mr. Speaker, is he there? Well, he says he's on the line.
Dana, I'm here.
Oh,
Dana,
there you are. There you are.
Yes,
no, Mr. Speaker, I was going to ask, what happened with the Republican Party in Jefferson City yesterday? It went from 3 to 15 who stood against Missouri families for tax cuts.
Dana, we found out how many true, hardcore fiscal conservatives who want to grow Missouri's economy we truly had. And, Dana, we have 94. And although that's plenty to pass any bill during a regular session. I could pass tax cuts all day long during a regular session. All you need is 82. I had 94 yesterday on probably the hardest bill, hardest measure. Not for me. It was an easy vote for me, and I was more than happy to bring it up. But many buckled to the pressure, to the misrepresentations, to the taxpayer-funded campaign fly-around all summer long, and we did not have the true supermajority in the number reflected in the vote. And now, Dana, these folks are going to have to go back home and explain why they voted against the first broad-based tax relief package in nearly a century for all Missourians. And now Governor Nixon, Dana, has to explain, now that he can't campaign against a tax cut bill for the rest of the fall, what is his plan? What are we going to do next year, Governor? What is the plan to move Missouri forward? Dana, I think it's still tax relief, reducing regulations, and moving Missouri to a more worker-free right-to-work state.
Well, but, and didn't paycheck protection, isn't that stalling out now as well?
That stalled out in the Senate yesterday. I do not know what happened there. But, Dana, I remain committed. And again, Dana, I don't know that we have a veto-proof supermajority on that, but I know I have about 95 members as well on a right-to-work bill. We can move. We have a good, strong, conservative governing majority. But a supermajority to try to override a governor who is opposed to you on every common-sense fiscal measure, we do not have. And, Dana, that's the biggest problem in our state. We have had Democratic governors for 20 out of the last 24 years. And this is what you get, folks. You get a stagnant economy. You get a governor who vetoes common-sense, fiscally conservative measures to increase our prosperity in this state. And you get misrepresentations and taxpayer-funded fly-arounds.
I agree with all of that. I just think and to be perfectly frank, I just think because we have a Republican majority, I just think is this a leadership issue? Because when I look at this, I see no reason why a Democrat governor needs to stand in the way of what can be passed with a Republican legislature in the state. And I think, well, this comes down to then party organizing. This comes down then to party leadership. There's no way that we should have had these three issues fail completely in Jeff City, considering how red this state was last election.
I will tell you what is the common thread, and you've identified it several times. But let's remind the listeners, the common thread in all of those votes was when you asked them, and when they've been interviewed, I believe all of them have been interviewed by various news outlets, Dana, they say the same thing. They were afraid that their public schools would suffer. So the government educrats at the trough scared the heck out of these people, and they succumbed to the fear, Dana. And you can't have legislators who are going to move common sense, fiscally conservative measures forward who are going to be beholden to the government school establishment. Dana, that is the common thread. We're going to have to do a better job of recruiting and funding candidates in the future that are not going to be shackled to their government school educrats. Dana, that is the common thread. That's what they're all saying. And it's really unfortunate because today Missourians lose. Missourians lose on tax relief and job creation.
Right.
And
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's frustrating because I feel as though the message could have been made so much stronger. I mean, we have 15 Republicans, frankly, Mr. Speaker, who can't do math. And it's shameful. It is positively shameful. And some of these Republicans have, from what I understand, they also have chairmanships. Are they going to be stripped of these? Phillips, Redmond, Fitzwater, Thompson, Intlicker, are they going to be stripped of their chairmanships because of their betrayal of the Missouri people?
We're going to take a hard look at everything. And I'll tell you, the first bill, Dana, that's going to be put before them next year is going to be a tax cut bill. We're going to take out all of the alleged problems that Governor Nixon said. I remember all those red herrings we discussed, the pharmacy tax, the streamlined sales tax problem, the retroactivity. We're going to take all that back. We're going to take everyone's arguments away from them. We're going to strip it down to a basic philosophical question. Do you agree that the taxpayers of this state can spend their money wiser, or do you believe government needs to grow and spend more and get larger and more bloated? And when it's that simple question, Dana, I hope people finally choose the right chance. And Dana, one thing that cannot be overlooked, and I know the left doesn't want to talk about this today, we did make Governor Nixon the most overridden governor in one session in state history. We overrode him on 10 bills. Some were important. The trial lawyers didn't want us to override 2 bills that we overrode him on. There were many bills that Governor Nixon vetoed yesterday that he felt were important to veto for his special interests that we overrode him on, 10 of them total. And one of them was a jobs bill down in Jefferson County for the Doe Run facility that the trial lawyers worked very hard against, and we defeated them yesterday. So there were some bright spots, but we have to go back and protect our Second Amendment rights and liberties, and we have to provide tax relief to Missourians like every other state around us except Illinois is doing. And all of those states except Illinois are growing.
Are you disappointed with some of the leadership in the Missouri Senate, especially when I look at Senator Tom Dempsey? This was a man who, because I know it takes both chambers here. This was a man who tried to get Medicaid expansion through earlier this spring. He tried to slip it in the president's committee and pull one over on Missourians. He ended up being caught on that. Now he was also one of the 2 senators, along with Ron Richards, who stood against Second Amendment rights with the gun nullification bill. Are you? I think different chambers obviously are allowed to be critical of leadership that takes place, especially when it affects the work that you all push forward. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Dana, I was completely caught by surprise by that vote on the Second Amendment Preservation Act in the Senate. It really threw me for a loop. I had no idea that the top 2 leaders in the Senate would be the ones who actually would stop a Second Amendment bill. And Dana, we pushed back. You know how we got that out of the House, Dana? I pushed back hard against Chris Koster in the final days. And I brought in one of the preeminent constitutional scholars in this country, Dave Rowland, who you might remember helped us lead the charge on the Healthcare Freedom Act. He is nationally recognized. He took apart and dismantled Attorney General Koster's politically motivated partisan attack on Second Amendment rights in the letter he did that he ginned up all the local law enforcement officers on. And Dave Rowland said, there will not be blood in the streets like they said there would be when we passed the CCW law about 10 years ago. The felons would not be running wild. Nothing bad would happen. You guys should call Koster's no comment Koster, which he's generally been up to this point, and Governor Nixon's bluff. And you should prove to them that this only protects Missourian Second Amendment rights, nothing more, nothing less, and pushes back against a federal government. So we had that material, Dana. We explained that there was nothing to fear here about this bill. And I don't know if that message did not get to the Senate. I do not know what happened there. It was a huge shock to me.
What do you tell individuals who look at these 3 big issues, the tax cuts, paycheck protection, the Second Amendment Preservation Act, when they look at these issues and they see them fail in a Republican-controlled state legislature with a weak Democrat governor? What do you tell individuals who are losing faith in the party's ability to represent conservatism at the state level and are considering other options?
I say the first thing you have to do is you have to replace the leadership at the very top. And, Dana, that is the governor. You cannot keep electing Democratic governors to a state and expect that the bureaucracies are going to be all squeaky clean, like in the case of the Department of Revenue or Department of Social Services. You can't expect that you're going to have a government that doesn't continue to grow and gorge itself at the public trough with Governor Nixon's budget shenanigans that he engages in every year and withholding money from education and using it for his pet projects. You can't expect that we're going to have a good court system because the governor controls most of the important appointments to the courts in our state. Dana, you have to replace the governor, and we have to work very hard towards 2016. The legislature can pass all the good bills at once during the session, but when you have the governor picking off one or two people, which all it takes in an override, veto overrides are nearly impossible. There's some states, Dana, that haven't had a veto override in 50 years. Mm-hmm. It's very rare. We had 10 of them yesterday. We put Jay Nixon in the override history book as one of the most failed governors ever as far as being overridden in the veto session. So you have to replace him. We have good leadership in the legislative branches, Dana, but we only can legislate one bill at a time. The executive can pack the courts. They control the bureaucracies. They can ultimately control the money and where it goes. We have to replace it at the highest levels. We must do it in 2016.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate you coming on with me, and I hope that I hope that you do follow up with those chairmanship positions, because these individuals who really went against Missouri voters, they do not deserve to hold those positions. And every single one of them, I'm already getting calls and emails. Every single one of their seats are in danger. And I think it would be a show of good gesture to see the party repudiate these sorts of Republicans that have done more brand damage to this party than anybody else, than Democrats themselves.
No, they have, and you know what happens next year? Almost 1 year from now, every single representative yesterday who voted in the chamber is up for re-election, and they're going to have to answer their constituents. And constituents are more engaged now than ever before. They know exactly what everybody did yesterday. Dana, I was proud to bring up every single bill. I was proud to vote yes on every single bill. I was proud to override the governor 10 times. But, Dana, we have a lot more work to do. We have to provide tax relief for Missourians. We have to continue to protect our free liberties from an out-of-control federal government.
Absolutely. Missouri Speaker Tim Jones, thanks for coming on with us today, sir. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Dana, so very much.
Take care.